Welcome to Political Circle on Signature Television. Food is believed to be the #1 medicine in the world. Doctors will always advise that you eat before taking drugs. Taking drugs without food is not always the best. However, the scarcity of food in Nigeria is becoming a serious problem, with over 50 million people facing acute food insecurity. This situation is caused by various factors, including climate change, conflict, and economic hardship, or put rightly, government policies. The country today is witnessing high levels of malnutrition, particularly among women and children. The government seems not to have an immediate solution to the problem. Leading us to our topic today, which is boosting food security in Nigeria. I am Luke Mbo. To help me and help us find a way to help boost food security in the country is Professor Ike Oloka. Professor Ike Oloka is a professor of agricultural engineering, former dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, former dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Engineering, Enugu State University of Science and Technology. Prof, you're welcome to Political Circle.
Thank you, Magic. Thank you so much.
Well, when we talk about food insecurity, what do we mean?
Yeah, the most important thing about food security, it has a dimension that sometimes has some level of complex. If we judge the way the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, how they define food security, they say that food security occurs at the moment all people in a given environment have access to adequate, safe and quality food required for their dietary needs for active and healthy life. And the issue is all people at all times have what they require. Because for a man who is working in the farm, his dietary need may be different from the man who is a boxer. The same thing with that of a teacher. And so it becomes something we can look at. But let me even tell you that the food security issue leads to food insecurity. And food insecurity occurs when food security fails. And that is the situation we're having in the country today. Food security has 3 major components. One is food availability. Is it available to the people? Another one is food accessibility. Is it accessible even if it is available? If it is available in the villages, can you bring it to the town? Or if it is available at Lagos, is it available in Enugu? And then food utilization. How often, how do you use it? You begin to know about nutritious food, quality food, junks, and so on. And before you talk about availability, it goes into production. And of course, you know that within Nigeria, we have issues of productivity, which occasioned by some of the points you raised, factors that distort the original way farming has been done. And so that is it.
Okay, sir. Prof, with the vast land we have in Nigeria, why are we suffering from food insecurity?
If you look from 1970 till date, we have numerous World Bank projects in Nigeria. Government-sponsored, overseas development associations, people from the World Bank, those from JICA, Japanese International, Canadian, Americans, there have been a lot of projects Of course, you must have heard about Operation Food the Nation,
Way
Green
back.
Revolution, and all those things. Why are they not working? What has happened? So you begin to see that those programs were going on. Emphasis were not much on mechanizing the agriculture. Emphasis is let's all hands be on agriculture. Sometimes if you look at the research page, many of them were trying to emphasize on hand hoe, machete, making the farmer. So subsistence agriculture became the order of the day. And subsistence farming can only feed you and your family. It cannot feed the civil servant who is not producing anything. It cannot produce anything for you to go and farm. And now that the aging population that started that are going or has gone, the youths have the drudgery of using their hands. And so the only way forward becomes mechanizing agriculture. Reduce the population in agriculture from what it used to be, almost 65%, 70% are in agriculture, yet we cannot feed the export to the world. But in the United States, we have less than 5% of the population as farmers. They feed themselves and export to the world.
And that brings me to the next question. What policy framework can government come up with so as to solve this problem? Make us have food security and at the same time export to the outside world. Because we have the land.
Nigeria is so much blessed. We have river basin development authorities. We have good weather. We have fertile land all across the country.
I agree with you.
And the federal government have taken some steps to harness some of these rivers. But let me ask you, how many irrigation projects do you have in the Enugu State or in the whole Southeast? How many of them? In the current day, you must be able to practice modern farming. And modern farming goes with agricultural mechanization. Mechanization is where you introduce machines to replace human labor. The whole world have left the issue of hand manual labor. Military-wise, mechanized. Transport system where people trek for 1 kilometer is no longer there. Mechanized. People now enter cars. So where do you think the production of food should continue with the whole and match it? If you go to the villages, how many community, you, for example, your own community, how many times have you seen a tractor operating? How can a young man who they have drudgery of the farms, they want something better. And if you tell them to go there, what one machine produced in 1 hour, require 45 men to achieve in a day. So why do we waste our labor? Between 1907 to 1945, Americans were able to revolutionize the agriculture by introducing mechanization and reduce the manpower base in agriculture from almost 80% they had then to less than 10% by 1945, over 50. Now what happened? Those labor released from farming were now used in industrial development, because agriculture has a tripartite policy. Agriculture brings raw materials, which supports industries. And the industry will generate the income that will support agriculture. But this tripod thing doesn't seem to be working. If you don't mechanize, you don't produce enough for raw materials, which the industry should utilize. And when the industry should utilize that, you create labor, enough labor, you create income, people will be happy, employment will be generated, and things will work. And then people begin to look at agriculture as a politics. You don't politicize farming. You don't look, you are looking at, because agriculture is capital intensive. It takes some time. It's not what a 4-year tenured governor can go in and see the result even in the election.
But that brings me to the point. During Goodluck Jonathan, his minister then was hailed for doing very well in the Ministry of Agriculture. What was the problem? Was it a case of continuity? What happened?
No, you understand that part of the present situation and crisis is caused by this issue of herdsmen menace. Most of the farms where young men and old men, women and children all stay, especially the Benue axis. There's no stability up there. Insecurity is everywhere. People can't even if you don't have job in the urban areas and you come to your village, you can't even go to the farms. So that's disrupted because the intensity of the insecurity in the farms has increased. And if it has increased, the chances that what you produce using your hands, as has been the case. But if we have a mechanized agriculture, well, it's easier to even bring security. There was something we did some years ago, where they were trying to investigate the level of mechanization. We went to Abakaliki, and then we talk about rice production. And we saw that you hardly could see any single farmer with up to 45 hectares as an individual. What people have is 2 hectares, 1 hectare, 3 hectares, 10 hectares. And that's why you see so many persons. Why one single person? You need a cat to tour the field of his farm, and an aircraft, an agricultural tractor that flies in the air to really survey and do the fumigations and all those things. And so when the situation during his time changed in terms of security, when the situation of the world is increasing in a democratic and mechanized world, you cannot expect what used to be to continue to be. And so the way forward is understanding that the young people now, they must get into agriculture. There was a suggestion I made when I gave the 19th inaugural lecture of the university. And that lecture was emphasizing how many communities have taken time now to map out what we call agricultural land area. Because even where some people farm around, when one gets money and want to build, we just clear everything. And then the building factories, building houses, residential are replacing those places. But can we map out, say, 40% of the land area? Say, this is no good area except you want to farm. Make it there. It becomes a law. And nobody can venture into that. You go to Anambra State, you don't have many lands available. We have about 50 hectares altogether. It's not common. But if we now begin thinking of what will happen in 50 years, map out areas in every community or in every region of the country or in every senatorial zone of the state. This is an agricultural area. Nobody goes there except if you want to farm. It makes farming better. Those who have money to mechanize agriculture, to venture into in a large scale, will now have where to go. Otherwise, the kind of land management system, land tenure, land this and that.
And that brings me to my next question. What are the roles of state government, local government? Because each time we talk and analyze issues in this country, we look at the federal. State, local government, how can they bring this kind of policy so that it becomes part of the law, part of the constitution?
When in 2014, I promulgated that idea, along with other things like agricultural land mapping, soil mapping, and then you localize those places. Many of them, you see, the problem with Nigeria, the leadership in Nigeria is this 4-year program. A politician is not interested in anything that will not bring him back. Winning election is the ultimate. Developing the nation goes secondary, because according to them, it's only those who win election that can implement policies. But that is not how to do it. By 1960, when Nigeria came, they had what we call development plan, rolling plans. Nobody touches, even if you form from party A or party B. And that's what we call, can we have Enugu State or Anambra State or Imo State or national development plan that will be about 10 years, 20 years, 25 years national development plan. And then if you have that, whether you come from party A or party B or C, this plan is no go area. You have to follow it up. Like in developed world, they have policies, and there are certain policies you don't change. You have to start from where somebody stopped. That is one way to encourage people to know that as far as this area is concerned, nobody's going there. It continues. If you go to see standard developed farms, it takes some time, like in South Africa. Irrigations are there, land development are there, and then you now have machines operating there at night, and then you have weather control and weather systems. So it's an integrated package. Somebody who is in a hurry cannot do. And then if you empower individuals, that's what I'm thinking about. Empower the private sector. For example, tractor hiring services, which used to be, is no longer there. Because they say government cannot do business. Yes, but government can facilitate business. The AAA transport, for example, if government do not facilitate it by building aerodromes, airports, these private sectors that are now operating cannot operate. So we want a situation where the governments can easily lay the foundation, develop these farms, and then people can take over.
Now, recently, P2B was postulating and calling for one single tenure of 5 years so that politicians will concentrate in the way you are talking. Again, I want to ask, Nigerian political parties don't have ideologies, but can we find either a presidential candidate or a political party with agriculture as his or her main focus so that we can vote for such people?
Okay, that's a good one. Let me tell you one thing. If we just from what people have been saying all this time, some of the frontline politicians, I can say that one of them was saying you have to lift Nigeria from consumption to production. And that is the P2B you mentioned.
Okay.
Because Nigerians, most of the things are consumption. Importations are for consumption. But when you lift Nigeria from consumption to production, and he mentioned things like Niger State, with over 76,000 hectares of land, that the North we know the best. Because agricultural policy can change the trend. We have enormous land. But investing on those things is what government can do. Or facilitate private sector from outside the country. So what we are trying to say, agriculture is a productive sector. When we increase that sector or find a person who have interest in that, it's okay. It's one way to move from consumption to production.
So what's your advice to Mr. President now that he's in power?
With respect to the issue of the moment, Nigeria is a hungry nation. It is, if you look at the global hunger index, Nigeria is 28.8. That shows a serious hunger. And about 30%, over 30% of the people, how do you know a hungry nation or poverty nation? What is the percentage of them being wasted? What is the percent of them being malnourished? What are the percentage of those who are dying? And that is where you have a good number that Nigeria is serious. It rose, the hunger, those who are under acute hunger, rose from 66.6% in 2023 to 2024 over 100%, or 100 million people, sorry. That means it is increasing. There was a statistic we took in our class last week. I teach energy systems. And then we consider this issue of energy in the country, fuel price increase. We took a family that has 2 cars, and that 2 cars consumes 100 liters in a week. And we changed the price from 147 naira at the last count to now almost 910 or 920. Now we're having a family in a week is going to cough out a difference of about 70,000 naira every week. Multiplied by 4, that family is spending around 300,000. And your salary is not increasing in that proportion, which means you are getting poorer. And whatever you are doing, you're removing a good chunk of your money. So what we can advise is that government should know that people are hungry. And this hunger can only be solved when there is some level of amelioration coming from government due to the price hike in food, in fuel, in school fees, in electricity, in everything.
Thank you very much, Prof. I know if I leave you, you'll continue talking. Well, you are paid to talk and teach, so I'm not surprised. I've been talking with Professor Ike Oloka, former Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, former Dean of Engineering, ESUT, a Professor of Agricultural Engineering. Thanks for coming, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, viewers. I hope you enjoyed your stay with us. Please, God, we'll come again. My name is Luke Mbo. Nigeria, we hail thee.